It's sending data. Thank God, not like last time. All right.
I haven't seen much on disclosure with all this other wars going on.
Yeah, and welcome to Beyond the Pendulum. This is episode 77. Yeah. Speaking of disclosure, I really haven't heard too much on the front end. Um, I've got myself really involved in another project. Um, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. You know that guy that's going around with the DMT laser stuff?
EMT laser?
Yeah, the guy who's staring at the code with the DM when he's smoking DMT.
Oh, no, I hadn't heard that one. I have run
Uh,
across some other articles on other stuff, but people are trying all kinds of stuff, man.
what does this mean I'm not available? What the heck? What does it mean I'm not, wait, am I not available? It says I'm streaming. All right, I guess it's just a bug. So let me post my, oh no, we're live, 100%. There's just some bugs on the back end. No, so I've been getting myself more involved. Like I've been amateurly like doing the DMT laser experiments where you kind of where you do DMT and you look at the laser to try and see the symbols and the stuff that's in there. And I finally just uh, I've been in like a Discord channel where they've been actively doing. I just got more involved lately, um, and kind of getting some more feedback, not only from the science people, but I've been getting a lot more from these side DMs where I'm talking to other what we call ourselves psychonauts, where we're trying to explore what we think is a another reality. And the conversations I've been having have been really much more um, awe-inspiring than some of the stuff I've been seeing in the UFO world, Um, just off the wall, like how like a lot of us are seeing the same symbols, regardless of what or where we are, in this laser. And the theory is that we might be seeing a pre-render to reality, which is the crazy part.
Yeah. No, I have heard that from people that the DMT, they have similar experiences, see the same things. That really is weird.
Yeah, but the weirder part is that I've been collaborating with a few other people, like not in the main channels, but on the side, with the our DMT entity experiences, where we come across these entities that we talk to, and I this is the first time I've been collaborating stories with another individual, and I've learned a few things that I've got to try, but there seems to be some, um, how should I say this? I think they're real. I'm not gonna lie. I think they're real on some level. I don't. In the science from Andrew Gilmore, um, the DMTX experiments are leaning more towards we might be actually interacting with real beings with actual intelligences that are not our own. And that's what the data is saying from the MRI and the observable, repeatable data. Um, and that's got to baffle people's minds, right?
Yeah, I mean I mean whatever you're channeling or
Interacting with.
resonating with there, there is something to that. I can't explain. I've never done DMT myself, so I can't really speak to that. But just from what I've heard from a few folks, it's awful strange. It's not your typical drug experience,
Yep,
because
exactly.
those can be kind of random,
Yeah.
and don't necessarily correlate, like these do.
Yeah, so Dr. Rick Strassman, he really didn't get into he was the first guy who did the actual DMT studies for some sort of I read the book and I didn't even remember what his aim was, but you get into the epilogue of the or the last chapter of his book, where he talks about why he quit the stuff and There was some really off the wall. This is coming from a doctor. Um, his conclusion is that, um, or his theory, some of it's wrong. He thinks that the pineal gland was the source of all of it, which we find out that it's not true. It's actually endogenous all over the brain. But what we're finding is that the what might be happening is that the brain might. There's enough evidence to say that the brain is acting as a filter for reality on the actual deep, what called the default mode network on the brain. There's not enough computing power to process everything that's in front of you. Like if your brain could, had to measure the electrons, the atoms, the everything, but everything that you would have to measure or computate in the brain. The brain doesn't have enough computational power to, you know what I mean? There's not enough there to just for even observation of reality, just even around looking. So the brain filters out about 90% of what you see. And the theory is that when the drug alters the 5-HT2A receptor, which does distort your vision and reality and thinking a little bit. And if we're dealing with the brain acting as some sort of quantum computational computer, um, who's to say that that slight alteration is allowing people to see stuff that's actually part of real reality that we normally can't interact with? And that's kind of the foundation of where I'm at with what we're interacting with, because it seems to be that we're all kind of coming across the same beings, the same thing, the same, it's very strange.
Yeah, that is. It's now I would say, is it religious at all, or is
No,
there anything that ties anything together? You see the same things, but is there any tie-ins or
no,
anything?
they often say the same things. There's often an architect. I realize there are rooms, the wait out rooms, the lockouts, them telling you you're not allowed to go here or there, the gates, um, what the entities look like. Um, Sometimes there's some coherence, sometimes there's not. It really depends on what your, I guess your, how much you can immerse yourself there. But a lot of us are seeing the same thing, and uh, I think it is a real place that we're experiencing, um, and we're finding out that you don't need just DMT to do it. The weird thing is that we're finding out that there is a wide variety of tryptamine psychedelic drugs, and now we're finding out that some of the more exotic phenethylamine drugs you won't be able to interact with the entities on those levels, but you will be able to see the code that we're seeing in the laser. Um, we've already deduced that it's not an artifact of the brain, because when you get two people in a room, they can see the same symbols. So
Wow.
I think something.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it is yeah,
the
that drug is a tuning mechanism somehow,
Yeah, and we're seeing the same language.
Yeah. Because normally people, their chemistry is different, it's you might have similar drug reactions, but that one's, unique, yeah.
I, that's why I call ourselves psychonauts. We're not doing the drug for any recreational value. It's more like being an astronaut.
Trying to find a way,
Trying to find a way, yeah, what it is and what it all means. And the really unique thing is that this is the one most powerful thing you can do, and it's endogenous not only to you but to every ecosystem and everything that it surrounds you. So it's very unique. Um, I actually made the mistake of posting my some of my experiences on Reddit, and I was called a crazy person for even trying. And because I had this experience where the entity was able to affect something physically in reality in the room, and there were too many religious people, and they're saying I was having a somatic experience or a biofeedback loop where I was
Mm.
experiencing. I'm like, the second, I'm in a chat room or I'm in a group where people smoke psychedelic drugs and talk to entities, and you're telling me I'm the one that's fucking crazy because it poked me. Like, you know what I mean? And then, it's like it's the second you say something, there's something weird in a group like that, you're like, I don't know.
Well,
It's
that
like,
should be now. Should that be expected? I mean, if you research any of that at all, I mean, there's different levels of, it's like UFO experiences. You see one, you have contact, the third kind, that sort of thing. Physical
yeah,
contact. There's different levels of it. So it's,
yeah. I'm starting to feel like with my experiences, I'm starting to feel like like explaining this to like people that are outside of these bounds. You start to feel like you're trying to explain you had a UFO experience, and everybody thinks that you're fucking crazy. Like the reaction that I got telling my story on Reddit baffled me. I actually thought people would just not comment at all. I actually got verbally harassed and threatened. That's how people
yeah,
react.
at some level, it threatens their reality, I suppose. It's one thing when you talk about things in a light manner, but when it gets serious, and or you're seeing, some kind of, supernatural something go on, now all of a sudden it's real and they get scared. I've encountered that before.
Yeah, and they want to threaten you. They want to hurt you. One person said they would try to find me and take my kids away. I was like,
Oh boy. Well, yeah, that seems to be the common. I mean, I've seen that with a lot of families. That's the new way to like stab your relatives in the back is just, call CPS and make up a bunch of nonsense and have their kids taken away. It's just horrible, I think, but I mean, there's a lot of people doing that to their in-laws and, relatives. It's just, I don't know, it's a
I'm
different world.
starting to wonder if there's crossover between these entities that we're seeing and the UFOs. What if, and I'm starting to get into this weird zone where I don't think there's kind of a crossover. I think there's a definite crossover where we might be dealing with a technology and a um, reality that is right in front of us, but we can't interact with it on normal bounds. Because when you now we're finding out through other users that there's actual technology there. You know, some people have run across what they call a console, which is some sort of computer that interacts with their reality. So these aren't like normal hallucinations, like these are very on the level of what I would call the paranormal and the UFO realm. What if we're not dealing with the UFO? We're not dealing with ET. We're dealing with like interdimensional beings that are occupying the same space as us, but we can't normally interact with us until they use these ships to pop out of their dimension and into ours.
You know, they seem to require, with the number of craft that you see, it seems like they still need like some kind of mechanism or craft to do this with. They're
Yeah,
not just like transporting through, bodily. They still need some kind of, aircraft, you want to call that, or spacecraft, to do this maneuver, whatever it is they're doing to get here. Um, you can still, I think Nick Pope, a lot of people have, like characterized the range of experiences that, that you can still. I think what's interesting about the UFO is that there's a range of experiences, and yet at the same time, you can narrow those down, and then there's experiences within those, but then that's kinda it. You know, you don't see, what am I trying to say? There's just not there's certain things you see in a UFO experience,
Yeah,
kinda over and over, you know, in the same way you're talking about these drug experiences, so it's
yeah,
in that way, it's similar,
and we're seeing things that don't make sense in reality. That it doesn't make sense that when you're on that stuff and you look at a laser, when you diffract it on a wall, doesn't matter what nanometer, doesn't matter what you are, you can see through the wall. You can see through the wall and into what we call the speckle pattern. You can see these oscillating symbols through the wall, and they're permanent, but you can look at every different angle and you can see different symbols. Maybe Tom Campbell was right. Maybe this is all just a simulation.
well, it could very well be. I mean, and if it's done well enough, I don't think you would ever know or be able
No, you would
to
never
tell, you
know.
know, there might be certain things that might make sense, like, I mean, we do have things that seem like that where, you know, that don't quite correlate, and, you know, that might be a clue to that, but, you know, overall, I'd say, you know, th this reality looks real, you know, of what we can see of it, how else can you describe it? It's
Well, there's also some weird stuff like when you start getting into like light. There's no logical reason that light should even have a speed. That seems to be a programmed limit.
yeah,
Um,
everything has some limit, you know, the reality we live in is a an exercise in limits, and you don't really know why that bound has been set. You
y-
can't go, you know, point to anything, and you can say, "Oh, well, you know, it has this range or this effect, and it is what it is," but you have no other than that, you can't really say much, you know, and
no.
that's where you leave it at. So it's, there's too many there's an unknown. There's just so much you can know, and then there's unknowns beyond that. You're in a contained, limited area, still a vast universe, but it has all its limitations, and that's where you're stuck. It's
What also gets even weirder, once I was even getting into the whole what is the light experiencing stuff, and asking questions. As far as the light is concerned, zero time has ever gone by, and the light never sees anything go by. It teleports as though there's how did one person explain it? If you're on if the Planck distance has any real meaning in physical reality, then if you travel 1 pixel at a time, then you will see movement. But if you travel 2 pixels at a time, you're teleporting, and that seems to be what light is doing. And it's when you're at the at if you are light, you are teleporting from one thing to another. But there are some really weird properties of light. Where did he say? He said something like if you were able to, because it was something about terminating light, and there's this really weird thing where it won't. It will. There are situations where you can see a photon collapse in on itself under certain conditions, and it has to deal with what they were saying that there seems to be some sort of programmed element to reality when you start doing weird shit with photons. But the limit, the fact that there is a limit doesn't make any sense. It seems to be programmed, and that's not a philosophical thing. That's quite weird. That you can uh, how should I
yeah,
say?
there's usually some, you know, a limit usually has something associated with it, so you can kind of tell why that limit is where it is.
But in
Uh,
space there should be no limits. You know,
yeah, you don't really get that, you know, with a lot of physical constants and factors and that sort of thing. You know, you know, there's there's still the mass and time. See, those are the two undefined, basic things. From all that, you can do a lot, but you still don't know what those are.
No, we don't know
You
what
can
we
say,
don't.
well, there's a particle that creates a mass particle and what we know, but you don't know why. It does it in an excited field as well. So, this Higgs field is everywhere. It's a quantum field, and so there's that all that going on in addition to what you're trying to do. With these contact with entities, and so it's a complex universe. That's what I think we find out is it's far more complex than you think, and
Yeah,
now the spinning universe. It's just
I'm so I'm the more I'm reading, getting into Tom Campbell stuff again, I'm starting to believe it. It's all simulation. It's all it is a consciousness model, but the reason why none of these theories of everything work or can define everything is because there seems to be a consciousness model tied to reality. It's almost fundamental.
yeah, it's a pre-program. You kind of see that with simple cells. It's like, these guys look at some cells and the activities that go on there, and it's just like, there's an ultra complexity to it, and yet it just kind of seems to come out of nowhere,
Yeah.
in a sense. And you can't explain that either. It just happens. Well, that's kind of the idea. I think these physicists are seeing the same things, as they go out, the universe is supposed to be older and older, and yet you see these stars that are way too really young and yet way too formed, so once again, it's like it just kind of forms out of the not out of
Ether.
the mist, I would say, but out of what is, and it's just there. The life forms because it's meant to. If it wasn't meant to, it wouldn't. We can say, you can look at it at another swirling mass and say, oh, well, it has all the building blocks, of life in there. Well, yeah, okay, well, sure, but how come you can't take those building blocks and create something?
Oh no, we've tried. They've tried. They have. There's been tons of experiments where they get um you know how to create amines, right? In chemistry.
Well, yeah, I mean, creating chemicals,
Yeah,
the
amines,
creating
which
the
are yeah,
chemicals
yeah,
that
yeah,
do all this, yeah, but getting it to do what
yeah.
we want,
Exactly. We've that I saw the best experiment, which was done, 1960s, where they had all of these uh, amines and protein blocks, and everything was created. All the amines were created, through what you would expect at the natural process, where there's might be some sort of electrolysis going on to create the amines, which is basically kind of what you need. Um, and they got these proteins and building blocks together in the most ideal conditions to where you think you would get a RNA sequence, or at least some sort of proto building block that we would call the precursors of life, and it can't be done.
yeah. See that now, to me, that has always been an example of this breaking of the program or the matrix. It's like, okay, you have things that are the building blocks of life, and yet you can't use those to do anything with. Apparently, that's very strange to me. Always has been.
The, you
If
know,
if you can have just spinning dust and all collect and do it all in a proto solar system, then you surely should be able to do it in a laboratory.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't be that hard
But
because you can recreate all that. It's just not.
exactly.
And so what's the key there? Is this or what's missing? There's nothing missing, and yet it doesn't work. So, that's one of those things I would say is an example of the cracking of the matrix, or somehow, or the program, perhaps.
there's something there. There's some thing, that doesn't, how should I say, there's something that we're not getting at, and there it might be, right in front of our face, but that's what it feels like. There's something that we're just missing, and it's right in front of
Mhm.
our face.
It always seems like that, though. That's what I say with the with, physics or the small or the large, you always get into these super gray areas and the unknowns, and then you're, like, right back at this point where it's like, uh, can't can't do some things that you just think you should be able to do. It's just
Oh yeah.
I just find that weird.
Well, I guarantee you one thing, it's gonna take some scientists probably doing a bunch of drugs to figure it out.
Now, I always thought, at first I thought it was odd, but, Terrence McKenna had, I mean, he's 20, 30 years ago, but he had these ideas, of that, it was people who had done drugs along the way that had made that were responsible for some of these advances of the past, you know, maybe the
He's
use of
right though.
fire or something. It could be there. I think there's something to that. I mean, you would see fire because you see lightning start a fire. That one's kind of in your face, right in front of you. But you know, thinking and art and some other things that came along. Maybe that has something to do with it. The expansion of your mind and seeing things different. Were the key to that move.
The guy that invented the what's it called? The um the PCR was high on LSD when he figured it out. The guy who discovered DNA was on LSD when he figured it out. Um, what else?
Yeah, there's some scientist, maybe a mathematician that said he would, he got a lot of his inspirations during sleep. I mean that's fairly common. Thinking on things, of course, that could just be normal too, but seems to happen a lot.
Well, what, I don't know.
You just have to try things. I mean, I don't. I think it's odd, what people try and the things, but I mean, you really don't know. When you're into this kind of experience or trying to find something new, well, it's going to be pretty exotic because let's face it, people have tried all kinds of stuff by now.
Yeah,
You
there's all
know,
sorts of weird
if
stuff
it's
that we're
something new, it's going to be weird.
we're finding out that if you use certain semiconductors, at sub kilowatt voltages, you start creating lift, that is not an ion. So what is that? There's
Uh,
just all sorts of weird shit that we're finding.
oh, that's that superconducting levitation. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there are weird effects. I mean, it's just my impression of like physics is we would have I think we found just about all the effects that we are going to find honestly in forces that we can like work with. You know, honestly, I don't see anything like big breakthroughs in unless you re-engineer one of these UFOs. Now that's a big possibility there. You want a big quantum leap, then that would be it because
I think they
I don't
have,
see
but
it
I
coming
don't
from
think
our civilization. Honestly.
I think that we've had them for a long time. I don't think they've been able to like successfully re-engineer them. I think they've been able to repurpose it, but I don't think they've been able to re-engineer it.
Yeah, I would have to believe. I mean, if you're that advanced of a civilization, it's all going to be coded for either your touch or your brain waves or something. They're going to know it's not you trying to run the machine.
Oh yeah.
And you're locked out. So, it's just like having the codes or anything else. It's like, but still that doesn't, as far as a power plant though, now, that's a little different,
It's
those you
like
can usually kind of piece together, you know.
it's like having if you had a time machine and you dropped off a Ford Mustang and in 10,000 BC, but you didn't give them the keys. Do you think they'd be able to figure it out? You know,
Yeah, no, you know,
I don't think
yeah,
so.
any advanced civilization, 50, even 50 to 100 years looks like magic. I mean, you think of what we've got now versus, the 50s or 60s. I mean, it's all Dick Tracy stuff, but I mean, Dick Tracy and better,
Yeah.
that seemed cool at the time until you got your iPhone. It was like, oh yeah, Dick Tracy, that's a piece of crap. I don't think anybody knows who Dick Tracy is anyway, so
Yeah,
I'm dating myself
I know.
here.
I remember. Yeah. I don't think anybody remembers Dick Tracy at this point, but yeah, that was pretty advanced for its time.
Yeah. Oh man. God, there was something else we were doing the other day. People just don't know, man. Like even the Vietnam War or World War II, that's like nobody even knows what the hell that is anymore. Like I'm
Oh yeah,
even
it's
amazed.
getting crazy out there. People don't even think the Holocaust happened. Uh, It's getting real crazy. People don't, I don't know. Now people are thinking that what's scaring me is that AI is seems to be used more and more where I think that's just me working in tech. I don't think it's a great thing. You know, I don't.
I can't. Yeah, I can't. I guess it's great, if you're in the power industry or the data center, you're convincing yourself of the people of the new hype. Maybe there's something to that if you're in the as a builder or something, but it just seems to take a lot of power. And man, what was the other thing that was I was thinking of years ago that was like going to bring, all this Y2K stuff. There's always all these computer people always telling you like the new thing is going to be this next level, and it just never, yeah, everything gets better, but flashier and clearer, but you're not seeing these like quantum leaps really. I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think we're right on the cusp of something big. I just don't think that I don't think it's going to come from the government, and I don't think it's going to come around from corporate people. I think it's going to come from people who tinker with stuff like, guys like you and me who just have weird
Usually
hobbies.
does, yeah. It's yep, yeah. The tinker is, through history is the inventor. That's just trying things and
Yeah,
well,
people are
it's like
call,
with plants and drugs and all of it. I mean,
pe,
you build on the people of the past,
people are calling us crazy because we're doing weird experiments with lasers and psychedelics. Like it's
Mm.
like, but they're calling us crazy. Like, how do you know? You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh, I guess if I was younger, I probably would have said that. Being older and having, and, seeing strange things through life, and not necessarily a UFO or anything, but other strange things. You appreciate, other people's maybe what they've seen and so forth. It's just yeah, you learn to be an open mind.
yeah,
If you've got an open mind. Now, if you don't, then it's just always closed and it just gets darker and darker and more negative. But
well, that's the one thing that we've been noticing too, and sharing notes like in the group is that if we that's one thing that's in the experiments that we've been noticing too. So I've been trying it too. If you put your intention that you're gonna see the symbols, you can see them better. And there were times where they were doing this, giving it to people who didn't necessarily even know what the heck we were trying, and setting their intentions over the substance before they inhaled it. And every time they were able to see it. Whereas if you don't do that, they're not able to see it the first time. It's very fucking strange. It's almost as though your intention opens up the door, which is very weird. It's like if
you know,
you don't believe in UFOs, you're probably not going to see a UFO. But if if your mind's open, then you're probably going to see one.
You know, that's there is something to that.
Yeah,
I don't know what to call that, but it's true.
so weird.
I tell you, the people and I, that I know that have seen one. Now they were never into UFOs. They saw them when they were very young, but I mean, it marks their life. They never forget it. It's so weird that it's just it's kind of always there.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It'll mess with your head and all that, 100%.
To me, that's where disclosure has been happening all along. It's just getting your government to accept the fact that there's disclosure going on. They don't that messes with their control scheme, and they don't like that. It's things they can't explain, and they can't have that. That's
I definitely
we're in
think that.
control, and we tell you what to do, and we're the authority. Well, all of a sudden, if somebody flies in from somewhere, that means you're not an authority on anything, right? They're doing whatever they want.
I think they have
So
recovered tech.
that's a problem.
I just don't think hands down they understand what the hell it is. You know.
Uh, I can understand, long-term travel in our universe. That seems pretty straightforward. As difficult as it might be, I think that's possible. That I could accept, a visitor from a world within our own universe, right? All this other interdimensional or experience is, I mean, I don't know. It's just could that be going on? Sure, but I don't have any way of explaining how to do that at all.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to do in our world. I don't know what that world is. So, what you're doing, hey, I mean, if that's the connection point, then that's the connection point. I don't have any way to,
It's kind of
deny
like
it or,
kind of like
help or anything really. It's just like, you know,
it often feels like we're poking into another reality with a periscope. You know? Hey Bob, this is how these people live. A
yeah, and you
peris
have to hope that works.
and a
It's
periscope that only lasts like 5 minutes.
But it's still it's a clue. I mean, from that you hope you gain something. I just yeah, I don't know. It's just the range of experiences are too too vast and too strange.
Yeah, yeah, you see it in every YouTube video right now. Yeah, they're talking about that laser thing. Big
What
topic
was that?
right now. It's a big topic right now.
Uh,
I don't know.
I mean, what else do you, it's I think what was interesting, like, I sent you that link with like Nick Pope, some of the last
Yeah.
things he was trying, he was going to places up there into Pacific Northwest that were like hotspots, contact hotspots, um, with groups of folks that were channeling. That's it's very similar to what you're doing. It's just maybe not with the drugs, okay, but very similar effort.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting he was going down that path near the end there.
Oh yeah. It's crazy, but it is what it is. This it seems to be that like in order to test the balance and figure out what reality, you got to do strange things. I'm not joking. Because
Yeah, I think now you know what kind of I guess reaffirms or what maybe collaborates, some efforts like this would be like the CIA and the remote viewing and all that, because that's very similar techniques and in a way, with or without drugs, but you're, mentally focusing and doing things those along those lines. And that seems to work. That's what I was weird about that too. Is just like, well, wait a minute, that sounds pretty far fetched, and yet it seems to work.
yep.
I have no way of explaining it. He was an engineer or a physics guy. That's just like, oh, okay, well,
Well, you know,
that's all very interesting, but I don't know what to say about it. It's,
well, if you think about it, you know, if the world is, if the reality is informational and it is a simulation, then there is a database, there is a core, um, a core database where everything, you know, some people call it the Akashic records or whatever, but you're probably dealing with is, you know, a record, and that information can be accessed through a conscious being, you know, since it's made out of consciousness or some sort of uh, something the information is being stored about reality somewhere, and you being able to pull that out of the ether. It may not be the ether, it might be the database. Um, it that might be how it's working. That's just one theory, though.
yeah, it was got kind of like string theory. You were getting these, you had supernatural, because that's what it would be. At the border between our universe and what's outside, there you're getting the the things you need of life and of your world come from the outside
Yeah.
somewhere and are brought in, and whether it was these strings or whatever the mechanism is that is the vibrational or length or bit of light, whatever it is, that's the little quantum of the whole thing. So everything comes from that, though. That's what's kind of shoved in shoved into your universe and expanding and creating all that. So it's I don't know, I
I,
can't make sense of it all. I just
you know what I really feel bad for is people that think that the world is working the way, you know, it's like a ruler, you know, like it's nuts and bolts and everything, and I'm like, well, you're actually really wrong. It's not how it works at all.
Yeah, I
It's
look at it more and more as like it's a plastic that just can change and form and stretch and do all kinds of things. Uh, it's more it's more of a liquid or a plastic than anything. Yes,
Oh yeah,
and yet if you worked out the modulus of space, it's somewhere near like that of steel.
yeah.
And you have to wonder, it's like, what kind of energies are, you know, expanding this universe when you have that kind of resistance in just expansion. I just
It
it doesn't
baffles me
make
as
sense.
well. Yeah, it baffles me as well.
That's just, yeah, the energies and all you're talking in this whole mechanism, none of it just doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah.
So
With that, I'm gonna have to call it a night. We'll be back. Let me see. Let's shoot for. Hopefully, she's not getting in an argue with me. Let's shoot for the